Now for this video, we're gonna ask ourselves an inevitable question. I believe that Mango has been a forerunner in terms of living that streamer lifestyle as a smasher. Now, when we move forward up ahead, I feel like streaming is only going to become more lucrative for a slight handful of popular figures, community leaders, and also players. That this is going to become more and more of an opportunity cost to go to tournaments as opposed to streaming. We saw recently with Zero how he said that his priority is going to be on his finances, which means that he will very likely go to the biggest tournaments, but he will very likely forego a lot of the smaller and mid-sized events to continue streaming, which makes sense. He's at about 17,000 subscribers. If we assume that he makes about $350 a sub, that's over 50K a month. And every day you miss out, you lose momentum, you lose the subs. So I can see how this makes absolute sense for a player like Zero to forego events, because if, realistically speaking, if you go to a tournament, and this is my experience working with Mango, is that if it's a Saturday and Sunday tournament, a little bit on the average size, then you have to leave on Friday, then you have the tournament on Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday is effectively a travel day. So you're effectively missing out on 4 days of streaming, which is actually a lot, and you lose a lot of momentum in this. And for a guy like Zero, granted, he may not stay at 17K subscribers, for the rest of his life, but on the flip side of things, let's say like he is safe to average, let's say 10,000 per year, which might be a little bit low and a little bit conservative. Each day, that's about 330 subs, or about a little over $1,000 a day. So let's say he makes $1,000 just off of subs. This doesn't include donations. This doesn't include bits. That's a lot of money. And so for him to go to a tournament, that's $4,000 in potential income he is losing. So I can see why this actually makes sense for Zero. Now, this is going to bring up an interesting dilemma, because I think a lot of people are realizing the same thing, that as you get older, money becomes more important. Whereas if you're in college, you're 21, you're not really thinking of the long term. You're not thinking of a 401k. You're not thinking about raising a family. Your expenses are low, and your standard of living is probably pretty low. But when you're 25, 26, and you're getting older, then that becomes more and more of a pressing issue. So you can't really live on a shoestring budget where you're literally living month to month and tournament winning to tournament winning. And so I think it makes absolute sense that that a player like Mango or a player like Zero are going to move. And I think this is going to be a more viable option for a lot of people who have developed themselves as personalities that transcend just competing. I think it makes full sense. Now, with that being said, I don't think it's anything new. We see this all the time in other games. In fact, most of the biggest streamers were ex-competitors. We see this with Ninja, Shroud, Dr. Disrespect, Crip, Maximilian Dude. Like, these were all people who competed to various degrees, and then they saw success in streaming. So, and there's also like players like I'm a Cutie Pie, Shifter, who are ex-professionals, and they're making a ton more money streaming. I think overall we're still okay, though. I think there's a big worry of, on one hand, well, what's going to happen to tournaments if everybody, starts streaming and they don't want to go to events? Oh, I think, the biggest events don't need to worry, because I think most competitors are going to go regardless. But on the flip side of things, I don't think a large volume of the top players in Melee or Ultimate are going to have a lucrative career in streaming. So you're realistically only taking a small handful of players. And for the flip side of things, people are saying, well, didn't Mango and Zero get their popularity from competing? So aren't they going to lose their growth if they don't compete anymore? Well, I think there's a small fraction of players that, or the subs and followers of Mango and Zero that follow them because they competed in the game. And sure, they might lose a few of those loyal subscribers, but I think that's overall a very small percent of the overall fan bases of them. I think they are great entertainers, and part of the reason why they have so many subs is because people generally find them entertaining, and not necessarily just because they are top players in their respective games. If we were to follow that logic, that if you have to compete to continue to have relevance, then players like Ninja and Shroud shouldn't have as big followings as they do, but they are entertainers first and foremost. So I don't really think they're going to lose out on much. And in fact, it's pretty exciting. I don't think as a community we lose out on significant amount of stuff if players go into streaming. In fact, streaming and continue to bring in a large audience brings more people into the scene indirectly. When you have the Mangoes and Zeros getting in the large number of viewers, these are streams that if they weren't doing them would not. Most of those people watching those streams would not be watching Smash. So I think it's an overall pretty much a win-win for everybody. Granted, it would kind of suck one day if Mango, Left and Plup, Hungrybox, and all of them decide not to go to tournaments anymore because their streams are doing so well. But if that were ever the case, then I also have to say that Smash as a whole would be in a good spot if we got to the point where all our top players were getting 10K subs, they were getting thousands of viewers. What that really means is that there are a lot of people interested in Smash. So if we ever get to that point, I think we're in a good spot. So those are my thoughts on streaming versus competing at tournaments. I really just think that's a small percentage of competitors. It's not really going to have a significant impact, although we might miss a few people here and there. But overall, I think it's good. I think it's good for them, good for Zero, good for Mango, that they see a lot of success. They're doing really well for themselves.